Welcome everybody. This is Conscious Cafe Global. I'm Gina Lazenby and I'm welcoming you to our session this evening with Joanna Bristow-Watkins. We have a wonderful evening on harnessing the power of the moon for our health, wealth and well-being. We're all familiar with the moon, but we're maybe not so familiar in why it is so important to us. So we have a beautiful evening where Joanna is going to explain that to us. Joanna is a modern mystic, a therapist. She teaches Rayad Sekem, which is Egyptian alchemy healing, and she shows how to apply ancient wisdom for modern living. And that's never been so more important, has it, to really dip into the wisdom of the past and bring that into what we're doing now, how we're living our lives now. And she advocates a closer connection with the environment and the lunar cycle. She's trained as a forest bathing guide and feels that enlightenment is very strongly reached through our connection with nature. Background is in psychology and education, and she was a senior management in the travel industry before leaving in the 90s, having a family, and then discovering this connection with starting out with Reiki with this Rayad Sekem. And it seems to me your travel has expanded from the outer world into the inner world, Joanna. So let's give Joanna a welcome with our hands, since we can't necessarily applaud. And I'm going to hand over to you, Joanna, and just change the spotlight. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I just had a little message from someone saying they've been forest bathing with me. How lovely. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing the screen in a moment, and I actually did an introductory slide. I'd forgotten that Gina was going to introduce me, so I'll run through that very briefly. But just to tell you that I do have two screens set up here, and the PowerPoint is on the right-hand screen, so I won't be looking directly at the camera when I'm presenting from the PowerPoint, but I'll be moving backwards and forwards and connecting with you in between sessions. So I'm going to share the screen now, and hopefully you're all seeing the right bit. Oops.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so went forward a bit further before I wanted to. Hope you saw the welcome one. So just very quickly, my background was psychology. PGC was a postgraduate certificate in teaching education. I was a trainer in industry from the 1980s through to the mid-90s. And I ran a chain of local travel agencies. So I set up Harmony Healing in 1998. So I spent 24 years now, shock horror, as a complementary health therapist, and I specialise in Egyptian alchemy healing, which Gina pronounced beautifully, Rayad Sekem. Not many people can say that, Gina. And obviously moon alignment as well. I've done TV presenting, public speaking, freelance writing and blogging, and I run 3 meetups, 1 Surrey meetup and 2 London meetups. I'm a sacred site tour escort when it's safe and sensible to go abroad. And I'm also a forest bathing guide, as you heard. Okay, so that's all about me. And as through the forest bathing is done through another company I run called Harmony in Nature. So I have Harmony in Nature for the forest bathing and Harmony Healing for the rest of my work. Okay, so you'll see down the side of the slides here, I've got the moon cycle showing. So we'll talk about that from time to time. Okay, so humans have always been fascinated by the moon. You won't be surprised to hear that. And indeed, our word month is derived from the word for the moon because our calendar months are approximately the same length of time as the gap between one new moon and the next. It's well documented that the full moon has a gravitational effect on us and on our tides. And hence, if you're a sailor, you have to know all about the moon, because the tides are completely aligned with the moon cycle. Particularly the full moon has the biggest effect on the tides. Now, seeing as we are supposedly 60% water, one has to wonder, is it going to have a tidal effect on us? And the scientists don't say that it has. They argue that it doesn't, but folklore potentially disagrees. Our term, lunatic, actually a very old term, but it comes from the Latin lunaticus, and that was to describe the impact of illnesses such as epilepsy and madness, disorders, if you like, such as madness, which were thought to come from the moon. So the word lunatic was reflecting the fact that they thought people were at their most disturbed when it was full moon. And that was an observational thing, obviously, in time gone by. And tradition has long held that on a full moon, people feel more emotional, and the police will even say that more crimes are committed. Some studies that have happened more recently say, well, perhaps they more happen on the full moon because the burglars can see better. So I guess that's also possible. But I'd like to say that it's to do with the moon has an impact, and people are reacting to that. Various studies have been conducted on the moon cycle and its impact on us. I hope there'll be more. One study showed that there is definitely an influence on menstruation and sleep patterns. And they found that people fall asleep later and sleep less on nights leading up to the full moon, when moonlight obviously fills the sky. So that affects our circadian rhythm, or circulunar rhythm in this case. The findings suggest that human sleep is synchronized with the moon's phases, regardless of ethnic or cultural differences, even in locations where light pollution outshines moonlight. And in a related study, researchers hypothesized that human reproductive behavior may have synchronized with the moon during ancient times, but this has changed as our lifestyles have changed and as we have more artificial light in our lives. So let's have a look at what the moon phases are. This is a diagrammatic look at it. We start the cycle with the new moon. The new moon is when we can see barely anything in the sky, and it goes through these various stages during the month. As the moon starts to get a little bit bigger, it's said to be waxing. So waxing means the moon is growing in size. So it waxes through the crescent moon phase to what's called the first quarter. I can't help thinking that's rather oddly named, because surely this is the first quarter, but for some reason it's not named the first quarter until a quarter of the cycle has completed. From the first quarter, we go through the waxing gibbous moon, this is this phase here, until we reach the full moon, when we can obviously see it more clearly in the sky, assuming there's no cloud. And I think most people probably do look forward to the full moon because it is a very romantic image in the sky. From the full moon, we go through the waning gibbous stage. So waning is when the moon is shrinking, and we go through the waning gibbous stage to the third or final quarter. And then the last stage is the waning crescent moon back to the full moon. So this whole cycle takes about 28 days. The only thing is, it's not actually 28 days, 29.25 days. We'll come back to that in a moment. But for simplicity's sake, we're told that it's a 28-day cycle, and hence we really talk about each of these quarters taking about 7 days each. So to reflect, just summarize, if you like, the situation as it affects us, as the new moon goes through the first quarter moon to the full moon, the moon is waxing, i.e. getting bigger, and energetically, it's having a sort of bigging up effect on us. It's the time for manifestation and abundance. So it supports us getting bigger energetically. As the moon moves from full moon and wanes or gets smaller back to the moon is shrinking, and energetically it supports us releasing and detoxing our lives. So it's very simplified, but that's the way to look at it. If that's the one thing you take away from tonight, then we'll have achieved something. Okay, so I did mention quickly then that the moon cycle isn't actually 28 days, it's 29.53 days, but it is noted that it passes through these 4 quarters, and they are estimated for convenience sake at 7 days each. And these phases are, as you remember from the diagram we just looked at, the new moon, the first quarter, the full moon, the third or final quarter, and then back again to the new moon. That's one complete lunar cycle. And throughout the moon cycle and the courses that I operate, we work with the angelic guardians of the moon as specified by my sister, Angela McGurr, who is a published angel author, mostly with quadrille. She's had 10 books published. So I'm just going to introduce you now to the angelic guardians, and try as I might, I couldn't get the animations to put this little moon symbol in the right place, so I had to put it at the top and introduce you to that first. So you may have heard when Gina kindly introduced me, that I am a Rayad Sekem instructor. So that's a healing system that I've developed that I teach. And as part of that, we work closely with the alchemy symbols. So alchemy, we haven't got time to go into it tonight, but alchemy is known for being the for ancient system whereby lead was transmuted into gold, or base metals, as they sometimes say, were transmuted into valuable metals. And so we know that alchemy has a really long history, and how alchemy works is that we work with symbols which carry a huge amount of energy and information in them. And if we were to look at a piece of writing, I'm just going to grab any piece of paper I might have handy. It's easy, never easy to find one when you want one. Here's a sheet of paper with some writing on it. If you didn't speak the language that this chart is written in, that might as well be a jumble of meaningless symbols. But we do speak English, and therefore when we read the chart, we can make sense of what is written on there. Alchemy is the same. Alchemy is a series of symbols, and you have to learn how to understand them and work with them. So I thought this was an interesting opportunity to introduce you to some simple alchemy. And hence we will come back to this alchemical symbol for the moon is the crescent moon. So it's just drawn as a very, very narrow sliver of a moon, a little slice of moon, if you like. That's the alchemical symbol for the moon. Now, the angelic guardians, we're looking at, the main one is Gabriel, can also be pronounced Gabriel. And Gabriel is the guardian of the weekday Mondays, which of course is named Monday because it is the day when we feel closest to the moon. So the guardian of Mondays is the moon, and the guardian of the moon and the guardian of Mondays is Gabriel. Most angels are not thought to have really any particular gender, but the moon is seen traditionally from an alchemical point of view and from folklore as being a feminine energy. And therefore the moon is a symbol of feminine, or femininity, if you like. The moon is also associated with the colour silver, and it's seen to have a magnetic force field, whereas the sun is masculine and considered to be gold and has an electric, if you like, energy about it. The moon has more of a magnetic energy about it. So between them, between the sun and the moon together, we have an electromagnetic force created. The other interesting thing about the male and the female from a symbolic alchemical point of view is that they are associated with spirals. And the silver moon is associated with a clockwise spiral, whereas the masculine golden sun would be associated with an anti-clockwise spiral. The other angel that we work with predominantly through the moon cycle is called Ophaniel, and it can be spelt with a double F or a PH. And Ophaniel is the guardian of the 28 mansions of the moon. So the Ophaniel oversees the entire moon cycle, the lunar cycle. And over and above that, there are phase guardians. So the phase guardians are Geniel for the new moon to the first quarter, Amnediel for the first quarter to the full moon, Adiel for the full moon to the third or final quarter, and Geliel for the third quarter to the new moon. So those are the individual phase guardians. And then if you really want to go to town, there are an additional 28 specific moon mansion angels who are in control of one each of the days throughout the cycle. And going back to our point from the previous slide, or an earlier slide, because there's actually 29 and 5.4 or whatever it is, or 29.54 I should say, days and not 28 days, when you're working with the 28 moon mansion angels, you do have to usually work with at least one of them 2 days in a row just to make them fit into a 29 and a bit day cycle. Now that's for the really keen moon fans. So I do run a course called the Lunar Cycle Alignment Program, and that's the overall name for it. It's called New Moon, New Vision. And in that we do offer to work with the, you can work with the phase guardians, or you can, if you really want to go to town, you can work with the individual moon mansion angels. Okay. So I'm just going to express why we would want to work with the moon. Why would we want to disconnect from our electronic devices? Not right now in the middle of this, but otherwise, we would want to do that to enable us to just reawaken our alignment with nature, if you like. And the moon obviously is a very natural resource that we have. It's been there for millions of years, longer than us actually, on the planet. And aligning ourselves with the moon cycle is very therapeutic. And this is how it supports our endeavours. I've sort of suggested this before when we looked at the summary. The new moon is good for new projects. It's a really good time to start something, such as vision boards, abundance check rituals. That should be done within 24 to 48 hours after the new moon peaks. Has to peak because it's only when the moon goes past getting at its fullest and starts to wane that we start to see the reduction energy. And if we're wanting abundance, we have to wait until after the full moon, sorry, after the new moon has peaked. The new moon is when it's at its absolute smallest, so it's when it's tiniest. We need to pass that moment so that the moon is actually on to the waxing process. It's starting to get bigger, and therefore it's going to support us getting bigger energetically, helping us with abundance and manifestation. Okay, so if we know the new moon is blah day, not enough, we have to know at what point on that day it's going to be at its peak. When is it going to be smallest? And in the 24 to 48 hours after that, we start working on our abundance rituals. The new moon to the full moon, as I've said, as the moon is waxing, getting bigger, that's supporting manifestation and abundance. And consequently, full moon is a good time for bringing projects to a conclusion. And between the full moon and the new moon, as the moon is waning, i.e. getting smaller, this supports release and detoxification. So some ideas of things to do here would be oil pulling rituals, detox baths, cleansing diets, etc. And if you're thinking, how am I going to remember all that? Then I do have some links to new moon and full moon dates and resources at the Harmony Healing drop-down box under the forecast. I'll show you how it looks. This is taken from my website. So if you look along the top here, you'll find on the right-hand side, celestial forecast. This is the drop-down box. And you'll see here full moon and new moon links. The full moon link does actually give you a full moon meditation of my sisters, an Angela McGurr full moon meditation, which you don't need anyone to lead with you. It's just a self-led meditation if you want to do that. And the new moon one takes you to links of the, it shows you how, it gives you a blank for the abundance checks, new moon abundance checks. I think there's a link there to the oil pulling routine as well, and makes the suggestions about the detox baths, etc. If you're looking on your phone, this will look a little bit different, and this might not be on the right hand side. You might have to scroll down right to the bottom, several scrolls, and then you'll come across this section here for the celestial forecast. And the celestial forecast is something I do monthly, where I do actually give a summary of the full moon, the new moon, and other natural phenomena such as meteor showers. But I also talk about ancient festivals and modern festivals as well. And then on the blog, as the days happen, I enlarge on that and tell you a lot more about it. So the next page will just show you an example of how it looks on the blog. This would be a recent blog, which was the equinox worm moon, actually was, I think, a couple of Fridays ago. And so we would tell you a little bit more there, would remind you what you need to do at the full moon. And we talk here about the ancient names for the moon. The Celts had names for the moon. Well, it's a bit in dispute, but I do explain that. I think they probably did, but a lot of scholars believe that that's a kind of modern projection, if you like, that the Celts named their moons after trees. But certainly the Native Americans named their moons, and most of the ancient traditions all named the moons, interestingly. So it tells you a little bit more about that in there. And we also talk about the full moon meditation that I do once a month. So I'm just going to quickly talk to you about the new moon vision alignment cycle, and then I will switch off the share and do a little bit of practical work with you. So the new moon, new vision, as we call it, lunar cycle alignment program is run about 3 times a year. And they're at the first cycle, so sometime January to February normally, one between April and May, and one between October and November. So we have one coming up on the 1st of April. So it starts on a new moon and it finishes on a new moon. And do you know what? This time, the new moon is on the 1st of April and the next new moon is on the 30th of April. So it completely and utterly aligns with the calendar moon this year. And usually I pick the April-May cycle so we can bring in the Celtic festival of Beltane, which is the 1st of May. And we'll finish before that this time because of the way the moons fall. But because the 30th of April is Beltane Eve, we will celebrate Beltane on the Beltane Eve. So the course involves 3 sessions together on the 2 new moons, on the 1st and the 30th, and on the full moon, which will be the 16th, which is actually Easter Saturday, and that's the pink moon in the ancient traditions. And for each of these, we work with the angelic guardians and their associated colours, crystals and zodiacs. And I work with these 2 books of my sisters. I've got the actual books here. We've got the Gold and Silver Guardian Angels, which actually features the A to Z of 100 angels. And I'm going to do a channeling from that in just a moment when we get to the practical session. And then we also work with this book, the Angel Almanac. Now they have both been out of print for a very long time. You might find copies on eBay or Amazon, but this set, seeing as it contains or should contain 144 cards, they invariably have many missing, and I do sell them and mine are all complete. So if you're anxious to get a complete set, I have new ones that have been held by me for up to 20 years since they were published, some of which are signed by my sister. They're very collectible, or I do have some secondhand editions as well. And obviously the price reflects the condition that they're in. Okay. And then I just want to tell you about our full moon meditations. So I hold those generally on the night of or the night before the full moon, depending when it is, unless I'm away, like I will be in June this year. Won't be doing one then. And in that, we do a personal and global healing meditation, which ends in an Indigenous unity consciousness ritual. And sorry, I've repeated there about the night of or the night before the full moon, so I missed that. And you can book via my Harmony shop. It's harmonyhealing.co.uk is the website. And I do ask, if you're joining me for the first time, I ask you to join by at least 5 o'clock. They take place between 7:30 and 9:30, so a 2-hour slot. It's very deep meditation, and we do cover some, obviously some of them you'll know from today if you decide to join it, but I do talk about the consciousness, human consciousness, and how working on ourselves can make a difference to the human consciousness average, which can make a difference ultimately to the planet. So these we don't have time to explain on the night. So I ask new people to join by 5 o'clock on the evening of an event, or before that, obviously, and then I can send you some general information in advance. And for those of you on tonight's presentation, if you want to join me, if you'd like to subscribe to the Harmony Healing blog mailing list, which is the one that sends you a message every time a new moon is happening, and full moon and the festivals. It's pretty regular. It goes out 5 to 7 times a week. If it's too much for you, you can downgrade to the monthly celestial forecast, which is just the summary and comes out once a month. If you want to subscribe to that, then I will offer you half price on one of your full moon meditations. £20 would be reduced to 10. Okay, now let me just stop sharing for a moment, because I'd like to I would like to do some practical work with you now, if that's okay. Hope everybody's got a glass of water handy. Let's let's do a little bit of work with Gabrielle. Has anybody heard of Gabrielle? Would you like to put, if you've got a little message you want to put in the chat? Many of you, some people are saying they've got Angela's books. That's lovely. Okay. Nice, thank you. You got a signed one, Sharon. And I sometimes call him Gabriel, and well, I say him then. I sometimes say Gabriel, and then when I'm calling in the angelic energy, I always say Gabrielle and think of her as female. And this is an interesting thing that Judy would know all about, as she had many, many years as a very successful publisher. But when the first book came out, my sister's first book, she didn't have Gabriel as a feminine energy, and that was partly because the main editor, her husband, was called Gabriel, and she didn't like the idea of Gabriel being a feminine energy, and so we all got used to that. And then subsequently, when a revision was made and Angela had a bit more of a track record and perhaps a bit more say in what happened, she changed it over and it became Gabrielle and a female energy. But we certainly know traditionally that the indigenous tribes felt that the moon had a very feminine energy. Okay, so no one else has put a comment, but let's just, I'm going to read the channeling out of here with Gabriel to give you a flavour of what Gabriel works with. And it's also an opportunity for those of you who haven't worked with angels before to just see how you feel when you listen to an angel and try and summon an angel into the room, if you like. Because when Angela was first working with angels, she got very frustrated that she didn't see angels in the room like, you know, some psychics or clairvoyants can. And she asked for guidance on how we could give people who don't see angels an opportunity to experience them energetically if they don't have the clairvoyant ability to see anything tangible. And this was the advice that they gave. They said to call them in. So we'll start by doing that. And we're going to suggest that you put your hands facing upwards, but not sort of up in the air. I'm only doing that to just show you. If you want to drop your hands down onto your lap or onto a desk, wherever you're sitting, so you're not having to hold them up awkwardly, but you're holding your hands upwards just to give your palms exposure to the energy that we're introducing to the room, to see what you feel when we call this energy in. We're going to do lots of different things to work with this energy, to build it up and see whether you feel anything at the beginning or through to the end. And at this point, I always say that even though my sister, she's sold nearly 1 million copies of books, and I've taught hundreds and, well, many hundreds of people to do healing. But right at the very beginning, we didn't feel anything when we did this sort of exercise. So if you do happen to be one of the people who doesn't feel anything, don't feel too disappointed or despondent. What it may be is that you are feeling something, but your brain is dismissing it as unimportant. I know that sounds odd, but our brain does that all the time. Apparently, we actually see things upside down and our brain turns it the right way up. So we don't give our brain credit for all the many things it does for us. And I remember years ago being on a course about orbs, and I was told that we can actually, remember there was a whole fashion about orbs in photographs, sort of light balls. And at this conference, we were told we can all see orbs, but they're in the infrared or the ultraviolet, and our brain doesn't think they're important. So we tell ourselves they aren't really there, and we have to learn how to see them. Well, it's the same with this, that we're so used to sort of experiences happening in our body and just not taking any notice of them, that we don't initially notice that it's in particular response to an event that's happening. And it may be that when we call the energy in, you close your eyes, you see a color, or you get an image of something, or even you might get a little twitch in your little finger on this hand or your big toe on one foot, and you wouldn't be used to thinking that was significant. But over time, you can learn to notice these things and draw attention to them. And by so doing, you actually open up a lot of additional perceptions. So it really is a skill I would advise you to persevere with. Okay, so your hands should be resting on the desk, and we're going to call in. You've got your mics off, so you're very welcome to say this out loud in your own space, because it will raise the frequency of the energy you're putting into this effort. So Gabrielle, 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 we call upon you to be with us now as the angel guardian of Mondays and the moon, bringing hopes, dreams, and aspirations in love and light, in love and light, in love and light. So even if you didn't say that in your own voice, you obviously will have been listening to me saying it in my voice, but if you said it in your own voice, it will enhance the experience. And now you have called the energy of Gabriel or Gabrielle into the room where you're sitting, and the energy of Gabrielle will be placed in front of you above your hands. And I'm just going to give you, because you might want to stop the recording in a moment, Judy, when I finished the instructions, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to close your eyes and actually see if you can feel anything, whether you can, a color or a sensation in your body, a change in temperature, anything tangible. And then at the end of the 3 minutes, we'll ask you to report in the chat if you felt anything. Thank you for putting the recorder back on. So somebody did post on the chat, could I put the affirmation in there? And unfortunately I was when I was saying it, I was looking at the presentation screen, so I didn't see that. So I'm just going to type it in there now. If the rest of you would like to put in the chat if you did actually feel anything, or see anything or sense anything, and if so, what you felt about it. And put the mute on when I'm typing, or you'll hear me type.
People seem to feel tingling, pulsing in the hands. Good. Yeah. So they have their fingers curling, tingling, pulsing.
I think I'm going to have to type that at the end because it's going to put me off reading the information. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so quite a few of you did feel things, which is wonderful. Okay. And were you generally surprised to have felt that? Sitting on my left hand. Excellent. Yes, some people do feel things in their hand. Actually, we won't be calling in Michael today because not particularly relevant for the moon cycle, but a very common thing when people call in Michael is they feel something has been placed in their hand, and we often envisage that's like a sort of flaming sword, which he's connected with. Okay, so some people are saying they are surprised. I was very surprised, but obviously it didn't happen to me the first time I did it, but over the years I've sort of come to expect it. But yeah, to start with, first time it happened, I was very surprised. Okay, so perhaps we can add to the offer that if anybody wants to contact me afterwards, I'll just type my email address in here, joe@harmonyhealing.co.uk. Just check because it's easy to get a typo in there. If you want to email me on that email afterwards, I will send you that little affirmation. Just to say it again now so it's sticking in your mind, it doesn't matter, the exact wording is not important. Really, the thing is you to say the name 3 times with the best possible pronunciation. So Gabrielle, 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 and then something along the lines of we call upon you to be with me now or with us now, not crucial, the wording. And then I like to say to bring the energy of the moon and Mondays or whatever is the association with that particular moon. And then it so happens that the 3 keywords that go with Gabrielle are hopes, dreams, and affirmations. So I would perhaps bring that in as well, just to remind myself that that's the energy I'm expecting to come forth. And then it's important that you end that affirmation with in love and light, in love and light, in love and light. And that is to just verbalize the fact that we are calling these angels in for the right purposes. They don't expect us to call them in to do dirty work for them or for you. we have to show that we have good intentions. Okay, well done. Well, we'll send that energy off in the end, but we won't do it yet because there are a few other little steps that we can take to enhance the energy. And some of you who felt something already may feel more. And those of you who haven't felt anything so far might start to feel something as we add in more steps, if you like. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just visualize walking in to a safe space, whatever a safe space looks like to you. It can be a room in a house that you're familiar with. It could be a pyramid for anybody who likes working with that idea. It could be a room in your childhood that you loved, your old bedroom or something like that. So in your mind's eye, just take yourself into that room and imagine that room filling up with beautiful white or gold light, or both. You can have white light and then you can have gold light. And this is just very protective for you. I mean, so far we've only called in angel energy, which is extremely protective anyway. But now that we start to do the other steps, we just take this extra precaution to put you into a safe space before we do any more practical work. So you've gone into your room and you've brought with you the energy of Gabrielle. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the alchemical symbol of the moon. Do you remember? It's just the crescent moon facing to the right. So you can just take one hand, whatever is you, if you're left-handed, use that, whatever works for you. And you're just going to draw a crescent moon. And we'll say the affirmation again onto the symbol, and that will give you another chance to get familiar with it. And this time I'm stopping after each bit to give you time to say it in your own voice. Okay, so Gabrielle, 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 we call upon you to be with us now, to bring the energy of the moon and Mondays, that is hopes, dreams, and aspirations, in love and light, in love and light, in love and light. We ask you to energize this moon symbol so that we can tune into it. Okay, so now I'm going to suggest we have another 3 minutes to see how it feels now that we've added the energy of the symbol. Okay, so we're back from the break and you'll notice that I have typed into the chat there. Again, as I said, the words are not crucial, so that's just how it came out when I was typing, so it's not essential. But the main thing is to say the name 3 times and to add in love and light 3 times at the end. Okay, so would you like to put into the chat box if that enhanced or changed anything, or if some people who didn't feel anything the first time felt it this time? Be very interested to see. Okay, so Mahesha, I hope I pronounced your name right. She's saying felt similar for her to just calling in the angel. Heather, was that different to how it felt before? Jacqueline says it enhanced it for her. She felt protection coming in. Jan says strong sensation on her temple and forehead. It is strange when it first happens, Jan, I concur. Okay, so Violet says she felt the energy moving through her body, especially on her face, which was tingling. Sharon says she felt her hand being held and she was given a vision of a bar. Don't know if that was a bar to drink or a silver bar or a gold bullion bar or what sort of bar that was. Burning palms from Suzanne. Lovely. Okay, so we're definitely getting some symptoms here or some effects. I felt a bit more powerful for Claire and felt more aware of being group. So Anne, I don't know if that's the Anne Moon that I know very well, or another Anne Moon, but that's lovely, Anne. Yes, I think as we build up the energy, we definitely do start to create more of a group cohesion. So that's a really good point there. Sharon says, oh gosh, no, I didn't, because I can actually only see 4 people on the screen. And unfortunately, Sharon, you're not one of those, but that's interesting. Okay. Oh, it is the same Anne that I know. Wonderful. Thank you, Anne. Okay. Well, I'd like to do a couple more stages, because what I'm trying to demonstrate to you here is how, with a little bit of practice and a little bit of time put aside, you can actually start to really enhance your spiritual practices and really build your energy frequencies up. So we're going to do 2 more steps. So thank you, Tamara, another lady who's a name I recognise, and Fabi I know is on too. So we're going to try adding. Do you remember I put on the screen that silver and magnetism are 2 energetic, what would you call them, connections with the silver and the moon, and the feminine aspect of Gabriel. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to imagine breathing in the color silver and the attribute magnetism. Don't worry, you don't know what it looks like or whatever. We have to let go of all of that to allow this to work in our favor. We just tell ourselves that we're going to be breathing in silver, and we're going to be breathing in magnetic silver, if you like, and then we're going to breathe that onto the moon symbol that you've already drawn. Then we're going to breathe the moon symbol in and take it to our heart and tune into that and just see whether it feels any different. You can have a breakout after that. I'll summarize again, you don't have to remember. Have a little 3-minute break to tune into that. Then we'll come back and see how that's affected everybody. And then as the final stage, I will read the Gabrielle channeling from the A to Z Book of Angels. We can see whether that makes any difference to you individually. And then we'll send the energy off to a good cause. I'm sure there are plenty. And then we'll finish the slides and we'll do our questions. So that's the rest of the program, if all goes to plan. Okay, so let's go with the breathing on the symbol. So you've got the symbol in. Remember, you're still in your safe room. It's full of white and gold. And you're going to breathe in the color silver and magnetism. So you're breathing in magnetic silver, if you like. You can make it more powerful by putting your tongue behind the 2 front teeth there, but you can breathe in any way you like. I just do that without thinking. Hold that magnetic silver energy in your heart just for a minute. So you're thinking Gabrielle, femininity, silver, magnetism. And then you're breathing it out onto your alchemical symbol of the moon. Don't have to do this next bit. If it doesn't feel comfortable, leave it like that and tune into that. If you want to, some of my students are on the call, so they'll want to do it, I know. You can breathe in the energized symbol, which has been energized now with silver and magnetism. Breathe that whole symbol in, take that to the heart, and then breathe it back out. Any of these steps don't feel comfortable to you, it's not a requirement. You can just observe what the rest of the group are doing. So don't feel in any way out of your comfort zone in this moment. Okay, so now we're just going to give you 3 minutes to tune into how it feels since we've energized it now with the magnetic silver. If you want to turn the rig off.
Joanna, can I just add, because recording on and off, I'm not clear whether we got the last bit, so I just want to recap that what you asked people to do was to breathe in to empower this moon symbol, to breathe in the qualities of magnetism, silver, and the feminine symbols of the moon, to breathe them in and then breathe them into the symbol, and then to breathe that energy from the symbol into our hearts. We're just recapping, just in case we didn't get it.
Yes, if they felt comfortable with breathing it back in after we'd energized it, they could breathe the whole thing in and then back out again. But that's kind of a step for those who feel comfortable with that. So yes, now they've had a chance to tune in to how that felt. So to observe, if you like, whether any different communication came through with that extra step. So we've got a chance to do a little bit of feedback on the chat now, if anyone wants to. nothing's come up yet, so maybe you're still in that energy and not feeling like expressing it. Okay, Jacqueline says her heart welcomed it. That's lovely. Gosh, wow, thank you. That's a lovely thing. Her heart felt complete, floaty, tingly and warm. Someone was pushing me to one side. Was that uncomfortable, Heather, or was that sort of like you were just reacting to, if you like, a strong energy, or did it feel a little bit uncomfortable? Tingly hands from Ahesha. Gina felt strong energy in her hands. So, I mean, feel free to keep putting things in there if you want to. Tingling on top of my head, felt I was wearing silver clothes. That's lovely, Claire. Right. Okay, well, thank you for giving the feedback. And our last stage, if you like, is we're going to just do the channeling from this book, the A to Z Book of Angels, which was from the Gold and Silver Guardians. And Lynn saying tingly hands. Okay, and something on the top of your nose. Okay, tingly up your arms. Yes, it can be, it's different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong here. Some people might feel temperature changes, others might see colors or images. Sense tingling is very common, pulsating feeling even, or just an awareness of obscure parts of your body. As I was saying, you know, it could be a little twinge in your little finger or something like that. So it really, there isn't an obvious standard for anyone, but what you might notice is that what you're feeling today is the signature that you will feel whenever you tune into Gabrielle. So you might get a completely different signature from a different angel, but for you, what you experience today might be your Gabrielle signature. Okay, Tamara bought a moonstone. Oh, how lovely. Yes, well, moonstone, if we'd had time to do another step, that's something we could have done, is add the crystals and the colors. So we could have done that, and the colors, well, we've added silver, so in effect we did do the color, but we could have done another step where we add crystals, and moonstone would be an obvious choice. Another choice would be labradorite, which is also known as spectralite. They're very moon related. In fact, selenite is very good as well. This piece of selenite here, celestite is good. Clear quartz, what's the other quartz I sometimes, milky quartz, any of those would work well as well. You could breathe that in and out in the same way. But the next step we're going to go to, and that's the sort of thing we do on my courses, you see, we do all these extra steps. So if it's something that you want to take further, you know where to come. But this is the reading, as I said, from Gabrielle, and Angela got these in a sort of channeling, if you like. So this is the message that Gabrielle gave to her. I come on a pure silver spiral that flows from Mother Earth to link with Moon, governor of your emotions and moods. I am the spiritual awakener who visits you in your dreams, bringing you fresh hope and new aspirations. My task is to guide you to fulfill your hopes and dreams, deal with your karmic issues, and progress on the path towards harmony with all. This requires a balance between the active side of you, issues you decide and corresponding actions you take, and the passive side of you, things that you feel, intuit, and think. Raphael and the sun govern your active gold aspect, but it is I who care for the passive side of your personality with my silver moon rays, and encourage you to balance your actions with your intuition. You may invoke my loving silver guidance in meditation, especially on Mondays, my special day, or when my moon is visible. Breathe in my silver ray, imagine drawing it through your feet in a clockwise direction from Mother Earth, and allowing it to spiral through your energy centers and into your heart. When your heart is full, absorb it into the cells of your body. Feel the silver rays dissolve barriers you erected within to prevent hurt. Sense your inner self and intuitive skills expand. Feel emotions and balancing being obtained. Let the energy spiral on towards your brow, where it joins its silver radiance with the golden energy of Raphael to harmonize your masculine, feminine aspects and engender peace. If you work at this, you can gradually attain the physical and spiritual wholeness you deserve. That is the first step on the way of love and light. Then, if you so choose, I will lead you further with brand new aspirations on my shining silver path. Thank you, angels. Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, Angela, for channeling that. Okay, so I don't know if you were able to visualize the silver spiral coming up into your heart while I read that, but even if you didn't, energetically it will be happening because the suggestion has been made and you were listening. So we'll do our final 3 minutes, which is to allow you to see if you get a further communication this time from Gabrielle and the assorted extra layers that we've added, and then we'll send the energy off. So do you want to switch the recording off again, Gina? We have the recording back to save editing it later, editing out those 3-minute gaps. So if anybody wants to put, if that brought another layer of experience to them. But what we're going to do now is we've built up a lot of energy in your room, in your safe space. And we've also created a really lovely group energy as well, relating to Gabrielle, meaning that we now are as a group in a very powerful place to be bringing hopes, dreams and aspirations to ourselves and the wider humanity and the population, global situation, etc. And so how we, oh, how lovely, Suzanne, thank you. I can't read all these lovely things out because there's, oops, my light's gone off. There in a minute. Well, I have to live with the one light. So yes, the beautiful replies in the chat here, which is lovely. So what we do is we're going to imagine we've got this energized symbol here. We've energized it with the channeling, we've energized it with the silver, with the magnetism, with our love and compassion for ourselves and others. And I do believe that this symbol has manifested on another dimension. It's something physical that we've created. And I believe that if we put our hands either side of this symbol, and we don't do it yet, well, I'll show you what to do. We're going to push our hands together, not yet, but when we're ready. And you'll get a strong sensation. Some of you will feel your hands repelling each other. Some of you will feel your hands being pulled together. But as your hands come together and touch, I believe that symbol will have been, or all of this energy that we've created will have been sent. So as we're bringing our hands together, we need to vocalize where we want to send this energy. You should always send it to yourself. It's very important to have compassion for yourself, and that helps you be in a good place to offer love to others. So as we're putting our hands together, say, I send this energy of Gabrielle, loving moon energy to myself, and I'm going to send some obviously to Ukraine and the global situation. You can specify specific things if you want to your own life path, to friends, family, relations who need this hopes, dreams and aspirations in their life. And as you bring your hands together, that energy has been sent. So we've sent it individually to the people that we expressed as we were pushing our hands together. And as a group, we've sent the whole summary of the energy to the global situation and to anything that we want to send it to. And I usually do add a little thing when I'm sending it. I usually say, and anything else or anyone else that I've forgotten who would like to have received this energy for their highest good. Because inevitably you'll think, oh, why didn't I think of Uncle Jack or something like that. So if you can always have that little extra generic wish there, that you send it to anyone or anything, any situation that would benefit from this healing and would receive it for the highest good of all concerned, then that's a good thing to add in. And we must always say in love and light, in love and light, in love and light at the end of this process. And we thank the angels and the energies that we've worked with for working with us on this process. Okay, So that's the end of our practical session. There's just a little bit left on the slides, not very much, because I want to leave at least 10 minutes for questions. And I know Gina will want a little bit of time, or Gina and Judy will want a little bit of time to wrap up at the end as well. So I hope you're all coming back you're still in your safe room. You can exit the room when we've finished the whole the whole presentation. So you can stay in there for now. That's not a problem at all. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen briefly now. Some lovely comments there. Thank you so much for everybody who's been expressing their thoughts. So I'm just sharing the last little bit here, and hope that you can see the right bit of the screen. It should be saying the full moons. So we're just talking, we're talking about the moon cycle. Just interestingly, the full moons are probably the ones that people most notice. So interestingly, we normally have 12 full moons in a year, but some years we have 13. That's because it's not exactly divisible by 29.54 days. so if we have 13 moons in a year, then we will inevitably have 2 in a month. And the second one has now come to be known as the blue moon, which wasn't the original definition of a blue moon, but now a blue moon, or the new definition of a blue moon, is when you have 2 full moons in the same calendar month. In 2020 it happened, and it was actually in October, and what was really interesting was one of the full moons was on Halloween, which is Samhain, that's how it's pronounced in the Celtic festival. So that was really huge energy that came forth on that second moon of the month. And there were 4 penumbral lunar eclipses that year as well. So, well, we know it was a very eventful year, don't we? Need not say any more. Okay. And although the original definition of a blue moon was different, that was actually, if you imagine you have 4 seasons in the year, because you've got 3 months times 4. So the original definition was when you had 4 moons in a season, because normally you'd have 3 moons in a season of sorry. Yeah, that's right. 3 moons in a season of 3 months, and there'd be 4 of those, but one of those seasons in a year would have a 4th moon, and that would be known as the blue moon. And hence the term, or the expression, once in a blue moon, came to mean something that didn't happen very often, you know, like I only see so and so once in a blue moon. It was a sort of expression for you didn't see them very often. But it doesn't have anything to do with the colour of the moon. The moon is not blue on one of those nights, or if it is, it's a coincidence. Okay, and they can be named by their proximity to Celtic or pagan wheel festivals. So having a look at the chart here, this is the pagan wheel. So you have Yule, you have Imbolc, Ostara, Beltane, Midsummer, Lunasa, Mavon, and Samhain. And they can also have alternative names. So the moons can be named after the sun positioning. So for that, we've got Yule is equivalent to the winter solstice, when it's the shortest day. So we have the least sun, if you like, and lots of moon. Then Ostara is the spring equinox, and that's when night and day are exactly equal. And that was very recent. In fact, this last a couple of weeks ago, maybe even less than a couple of weeks ago, we had the full moon was on the Friday, and then the equinox was on the Sunday. So they're only 2 days apart. So that full moon would have been known by a number of names. One of the names would be the equinox full moon, or it could have been the equinox full moon. Midsummer is the summer solstice. So that's the day when we have the longest days and the shortest night. So the more sunshine and less moon. And of course, Mavon is the autumn equinox. So again, light and dark are in perfect balance. So on these days, I do offer attunements. So attunements, haven't really got time to go into that. Those who are interested can get in touch with me. But effectively, if you've had a Reiki attunement, you'll know that it's an energetic process where we put these symbols into your auric field, and that changes your frequency. So as part of the lunar cycle alignment program that I offer, I do attunements on the course. So you're attuned into the energy of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets. And we work with the zodiacs as well. So this one that's starting on Friday, the April one, that will start in Aries and finish in Taurus. So you would be aligned to those 2 energies, and you'd also be aligned into the Chinese year, which at the moment is the water tiger. Okay, so just going to tell you quickly about supermoons and micromoons, in case you're interested. So the moon orbits around the Earth in an ellipse. It takes just over 29 days, as we've said. So it means it reaches points in the year when it's closest, which is called the perigee, when it's only 363,000 kilometers away. And the furthest is called the apogee, when it's 405,500 kilometers from our planet. So the perigee and the apogee are worth knowing what they mean. And a supermoon, it can happen on a full moon or a new moon, but it's more noticeable when it's a full moon. So if it's a full moon and it's on the perigee, i.e. it's at its closest point, the moon does look bigger, and it's come to be known as a supermoon. And it's because of it being at the perigee, when it's coinciding with the full moon. It can be the new moon as well, as I've said, but you don't notice it so much with the new moon because it's small anyway, it's barely visible, so it doesn't notice much more. But with a supermoon, it can look anything up to 14% larger and 30% brighter. And so, as I said, it's come to be called a supermoon. And interestingly, the supermoon does seem to have even more impact on our tides. So it's definitely significant and worth looking out for those. And a micromoon is really the opposite, when the moon appears smaller in the sky, because it's at the apogee, and that's coincided with a new moon or a full moon. So you can have a micro full moon or a micro new moon, but you probably aren't going to notice it as much, but it is another technical term. Okay, so I think that's the end of my slides. There we go. If you want to know the terms of the Celtic names and what have you, and also I did have the name of the study that found the effect of the moon, and that was one of the slides I took out because I thought there might be too many. So if anybody wants to know anything about those, the Celtic moon names after the trees, and the names that the Native Americans used relating to the moons, then that can all be sent to you if you're interested. That's it.
Wonderful, Joanna.
Thank you.
Lovely. Do you want to? That's it. That's great. Let's beautiful. Feel all mooned out now. Tingly. So let's see if anybody has any questions for you. Maybe Judy would put your website in the chat, so so we've got your email, and then people have got your website, and then they can go on there. And you talked about having your full moon rituals that people can join, and all the information's there. Lovely. How are you all feeling? I'm going to put the view on. Gallery. How are you all? Waving and smiling. Yeah, I think, you know, let's see if anybody has any questions, but you get out of your head what we've been through as a ceremony, as an experience, as a ritual together. I'm kind of, I suppose, like other people, inside. I'm not in my head asking questions. I'm not thinking, which is lovely, isn't it? I mean, that was the point of it, is to do that attunement and to do that together. It makes it more powerful, doesn't it? And I don't know how long you've been doing these full moon rituals, but I think it's important that we get together in community and do them. And it's great that we do, in a way that our elders and spotlight, in a way that our elders and communities before us would naturally do it. We're kind of finding our way again, aren't we, to this? And it has tremendous value in bringing us closer to the cycles of time, the cycles of nature, being with nature. And that's what's going to feed and nourish us, isn't it? Feed and nourish our inner world and enhance our capacities to cope with what's going on and thrive.
Yes, and somebody's just said that they had a little grandchild born today.
How lovely.
That?
Yeah. Lovely.
Yes, how lovely. Thank you so much, Gina. I mean, I know in a way it is a result if people don't feel like expressing their words. We call it sort of not feeling very speaky, because we're a bit out there, which is a good result. So if you don't feel like expressing anything now, I'm not offended.
No, but it is that thing about being in the body and the experience, as opposed to being in the head and thinking about it. And that's what you were guiding us to do. What were we feeling in our hands? What were we noticing step by step? And that's what we've been through. So I've seen it happen in a group where somebody's asked a deeply spiritual question, and there's a pause. and interestingly, I noticed the first 3 people to speak were men. It just spoke immediately, and it was a women's circle actually, with a few men in there, and then the women later. So that it just the women longer to process the question inside and come out with the answer. So when we're in our bodies, we're not necessarily in our heads answering or asking questions.
Totally, thank you. And by the way, Debbie has asked, she said the 30th of April is a full moon with a partial eclipse. She's asked, is there anything special about that? Yes, I could do a whole presentation on the effect of the eclipse, but effectively, the main thing to bear in mind is all of these things are a metaphor. And so the metaphor of an eclipse is something disappears, but it is really there, and then it comes back. So in effect, what it means is on an eclipse in your life, something might come back that you thought had been dealt with, might come back to be dealt with again, or things might just transpire, and you'll get all blown up by it and out of sorts, and then realize it was pretty nothing. The impact was minimal. So that just is another energy to add to the energy of the full moon itself. But yes, it will have an impact. And also, if any of you want to keep a copy, I mean, I don't know, because when it's on Zoom, it will be visible anyway, but I don't know how long it will be on Zoom, or whether you then upload to YouTube, or how it works with you lovely ladies from Conscious Cafe. But if you want to keep hold of the chat, you just have to click on the 3 dots, and that will save the chat transcript if you want to.
Yeah, I get the chat. Yeah, and certainly get the chat when we get the recording. We have that.
Lovely, thank you.
It's wonderful. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, Joanna, I'm going to thank you for a lovely experience. I feel nice and glowing. I feel like I've been moonstruck or moonbathed with Gabrielle's energy. That's lovely. And thank you so much. I'm sure everybody, they've expressed their appreciation here. And so we'll do our honouring of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.